Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so I am early today. I'm jumping on here a little bit earlier than planned, but I hope that's okay. And welcome if you're new here. My name is Hannah. I am a Western practical astrologer, and if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. So today we're going to be talking about the archetype of Scorpio. What is this archetype all about? And it's really quite fitting, actually, because we are about to experience this new moon in Scorpio, which is taking place tomorrow, quite early, actually. Tomorrow is quite early, the new moon. So yes, there is a Scorpio stellium. How are we feeling? How's everyone feeling today? We even have Mars combust opposite Uranus retrograde right now. Mars Cassimi is approaching. I was saying there today that it's going to be a pretty action-packed few days because we have, so Sunday, the day of the sun is in Scorpio. We've got Monday, tomorrow, the day of the moon, new moon in Scorpio, and then we have Tuesday, the day after that, and that's Mars Day, and Mars will still be in Scorpio, and it's going to start picking up more and more power as we approach this Mars Cassimi toward the end of the week. So a lot of intensity in the air right now. Hello, soul over ego. You say you've got Scorpio in the 4th house for you, and you've also got Lilith in Scorpio in the 4th house. Interesting. There's also Pluto, the same thing as Scorpio dominant. Well, yeah, in a way, yeah, we're going to be talking about the qualities of Scorpio. So if you're a Scorpio dominant person, and perhaps you can relate to the qualities that we're going to get into. So on that note, let's do this. Let's get into the Scorpio archetype. So Scorpio season from around the 23rd of October until the 21st of November, give or take a day. And hello, welcome to all the new people coming in. Lessons from love. You say you have your 6th house in Scorpio. You've got a Scorpio moon, Pluto, and Lilith there as well. Okay, so before we dig into this, I just want to make an announcement, a really fun announcement, which I'm so excited. I'm so excited to share this. So there's going to be an astrology calendar coming for 2024. It's coming this week. So this calendar is going to be available from the 18th of November. So that is the day of the Mars Cassimi, at I believe 25 degrees that Mars Cassimi. So yes, it's going to be available on the 18th of November. It's going to be £7.50, and you can purchase it over at my website, hannahselsewhere.com. However, just to let you know, if you sign up to Patreon, so the Hermes tier, which is £5 per month, you will also receive this calendar. So you're going to get £2.50 off by signing up to the Patreon there. Now, the calendar isn't up right now, but it's going to be up before Saturday over at Patreon. And then come the 18th, it's going to basically be available to the general public. In this calendar, just to let you know, it's going to, of course, include major shifts, major transits. So, for example, when does Mercury enter Capricorn? When does Mars enter Capricorn? These types of things. You're going to know that information, and you're going to have it laid out there. As you can see from the images, you're going to have it laid out in this calendar way. And also, the other thing about this calendar, I think, which is quite unique about it, is that it's going to include the moon phases, but also looking here at last quarter moons and first quarter moons. So you're going to get that information, and then those things are also going to link to your intention setting. Where are you along that path? What is the process? So there's going to be those moon phases, and then that's handy. I think that's a useful thing. I know for me, whenever I started learning about moon phases, it took me a while to really wrap my head around it. So I hope I'm able to break it down and simplify it for you for each month. And there's also going to be the retrogrades included, of course, but showing there the pre-shadow period and the post-shadow period. I actually included little trains going along the path, if you can see there from the image. I just had this vision of trains. A train is going along and then it comes to a station, all right, because the planets, they station direct or retrograde. So it comes to that stop and then it goes, of course, the thing about retrogrades is that it's an optical illusion. They're not actually moving backwards. But I still wanted to show those pre and post shadow periods just as a way for you to kind of see, oh, well, what does the pre-shadow period mean? What does the post-shadow period mean? And what energies are we going to be working with during them? So that's going to be included. And also, there's going to be a little guide on how to work with the moon phases, of course, plus journal prompts. So journal prompts every month for all 12 signs. So you're going to have all of that included in this calendar. I'm so excited about this. Again, if you are interested, you can sign up to Patreon, £5 per month, the Hermes tier. But as I say, so that's going to be available this coming week, but then it will be open to the general public by the 18th of November over at hannahselsewhere.com. And I just want to take the time to say thank you so much to my patrons over at Patreon. Thank you. If you do want extra astrology content early, PDF guides, okay, behind the scenes footage, things like this, daily forecasts as well. It's all happening over at Patreon. There's a lot going on over there. And I just want to take the time to say thank you so much to my patrons. There are many of you, and I'm so, so grateful for all of your support. Okay, so let's do this, everyone. We've got other people joining. Hello, Janelle. You've got a Scorpio moon and rising, feeling like you want to hide and come back out on your own time. Oh, we're going to be getting into the symbolism of that with the Scorpion. Scorpio rising. So this is Miss Roxy Full. You've got Scorpio rising, sun, and Pluto in the first house. You're saying happy birthday, Scorpios. Yes, happy birthday, Scorpios. It is your season. Happy birthday to you, Miss Roxy Full. When is your birthday? Because you say your sun is in Scorpio. If it's been, hope you had a great day. If it's still to come, I still hope you have a great day. Phoenix _ rising, very fitting, of course. Scorpio rising and Saturn as well, conjunct the ascendant. That's a powerful placement to have indeed. Pluto is also there in the 12th, and you've got the South Node in Scorpio. That's a lot of Scorpio energy. You definitely fit the bill for that username. And then you said that your daughter has these placements as well. Oh, wow. I wonder if there's anything quite karmic about that. Right. So let's do this. Let's first explore the symbol, of course. So the symbol of Scorpio is the scorpion. So this is the most well-known symbol. But as most of you also perhaps know, of course, you said there, Phoenix rising. The higher octave of Scorpio is the Phoenix. That's why I have included it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you some information about scorpions. So this is actually taken from National Geographic Kids, which any sources that I use, I will link afterwards. But yeah, I just want to talk about scorpions for a moment, just give you some information. So here we go. The thing about scorpions, of course, is that they have those pinchers, right? They have those pinchers, and then they also have the stinger, right? So they have this hard shell, the pinchers, the stinger. What they do is whenever they kill their prey, they catch their prey, they are very fast, right? So they grab their prey with their pinchers, and then the tail comes around and it stings, poisons their prey, and then of course they can feed themselves. Okay, so they basically have amazing survival skills. Okay, if you think about the quickness, so you don't even have to think about it. It's instinctive. It's all instinctive. Um, so they have those survival skills. And it also says here that these amazing creatures live in some of our planet's toughest environments. Okay, there's actually a little map on this website that shows where scorpions live. Of course, they don't live, in colder places. It actually shows here that where they live mostly is like below, so coming more in toward like the southern France, Spain, Portugal, and then all the way down the continent of Africa there, and then Australia. We've got South America there, and then we have good parts of North America too. But the thing is, of course, like places, like Russia or Norway or um, Canada, you're not really going to see scorpions, even where I live, right? So I live in Belfast. Okay, and so you don't get scorpions here. But basically, this is all to say that they live in these climates where it's much hotter. Okay, as this website is saying, tough environments too. And the thing is too is that when food is scarce, scorpions can slow down their metabolism. Did you know that? They can slow down their metabolism so much so that they are able to live off just one insect per year. My goodness, this we're going to get into this. Just how much, like how much this relates to the very sign of Scorpio. They can withstand incredibly harsh climates, both hot and also cold. It says here as well. Um, Interestingly, researchers have frozen scorpions overnight, only to put them in the sun the next day and watch them thaw out and walk away. Oh my goodness. This is incredible. This information is incredible. Okay. So in the hot, dry deserts where many species live, okay, of course, a lot of them live in the desert. I've actually been to the Sahara Desert. Luckily did not come across a scorpion. I do not know what I was thinking, right? I was I was in my early 20s, went on a little Sahara Desert trip, okay? And me and a lovely girl that I met there, I think she was from South Korea. We decided to sleep under the stars. Crazy. What were we thinking? I did not think to myself for a second. I didn't think to myself for a second, oh, well, there's scorpions probably around these parts. Maybe it was too cold for them. I don't know, but still, scorpions could be crawling around. Thank goodness none of us got stung. But anyway, that's just a little fun fact, just a little story there. But yes, dry, hot deserts where many of them live. And it also says here that scorpions cope with the scorching heat of the sun by, get this, burrowing beneath the sand or the soil. Right, so that's the information that we're going to share about scorpions. Again, I'm going to link this source afterwards. But here's the thing, right? This is where we want to unpack this to do with Scorpio. Because the thing about Scorpio is that this sign is highly resilient. This sign is very much a sign of like survival instincts. You think about Scorpio ruled by Mars, first and foremost, that's the traditional ruler. Okay. And also, there is a staying power to Scorpio. Okay. There's such self discipline, self control. And I think that even sort of relates a little bit to that information. I said that scorpions, they can slow down their metabolism so that they can just live off one insect per year. This is so fascinating because even if we think about Pluto in the chart, Pluto can look at like purging. Okay. It can look at what we shed. It can look at, what it can be related to things that like no longer serve us and making those cuts. And even think about Scorpio with their pinchers. You can sort of imagine them, hypothetically speaking, like using their pinchers to cut off dead weight, okay, to cut off what isn't needed, what isn't necessary. But still, the metabolism stuff, I think that just shows um, the ability of like Scorpio energy to kind of go, right, I have a goal, okay, and that's it. I'm focused in on that goal, and anything else around me, no, it's just all background noise. Okay. And I know that this is what I need in order to get to this goal, and that's final. So there's just such a there's such a control there. And I think as well that if we think about how Scorpio energy can go to extremes, right? Um, so for example, they could just go, do you know what? I want to lose a lot of weight, right? Scorpio energy, as soon as a Scorpio decides, right, I want to lose X amount of weight or whatever, they'll just do it. It's almost like they just transform so massively. And because there is that determination and there's no stopping them from that goal. I know I have a Scorpio brother, right? He has Sun, Moon, Pluto in Scorpio. Okay. He's quite Scorpio heavy, right? And my brother, he is really into running. And whenever he decided, I want to start running, he just did, and he lost so much weight from doing it. Scorpio's the type of energy that can just go, oh, I'm realizing that I'm kind of becoming a little bit dependent on a substance or on a situation. I'm just going to stop doing that. It's like they can just quit something cold turkey, and that's final. And that is so representative through the Scorpion. Okay, the Scorpion. And then the other thing with this is the whole burrowing beneath the sand or the soil. What I Scorpio that hide. What was it? I remember a viewer, you were saying there that let me go up. Let me find you. Janelle, you said that you want to hide and come back out on your own. Okay. What did I say about the Scorpion? Burrowing beneath. Okay. They can hide themselves, they can cover themselves. And that is so representative, I think, of Scorpio. This energy invites the ability to go into hiding, and close all the all the blinds, all the curtains, just pure darkness. They can go into their cave, right? And that can be like a cocoon. If you can imagine, like, a butterfly going into its cocoon, and then all of a sudden, or sorry, a caterpillar, my mistake. A caterpillar is in its cocoon, and what it's doing is it is preparing itself to become this beautiful butterfly. That is Scorpio energy. Very, very Scorpio. So those are just some facts that I wanted to share about Scorpio. But then I suppose the other thing with this is the Phoenix, right? So, like I said, the Phoenix is also another symbol to do with Scorpio. So, let's read some information about the Phoenix. So, this is just going to be a lot more simplified, but the Phoenix bird, of course, this is a mythological creature. But this bird symbolizes immortality, okay? It symbolizes resurrection, life after death. So, this is what Scorpio is largely about. And I think that this even is strongly tied to the Pluto symbol of Scorpio. Okay, so this side to Scorpio that transforms, that dies, okay, not literally, but dies, a part of them dies, and then they are reborn, okay, and there's new life that comes from that. Now, there was something else that I just wanted to find actually about this. I have some, let me see. Yes, okay. So, like I said, the highest octave of Scorpio is the Phoenix, and it symbolizes transformation, death, rebirth. Now, the Phoenix is said to obtain new life by rising from the ashes of its predecessor pronunciation. Some say the phoenix dies in a show of flames and combustion, whilst other sources claim that the bird dies and decomposes before it is born again. Now, that word combustion, and thinking about the flames, you look at that bird, of course, it's got flames, right? That is so interesting to me. Especially because we are approaching this Mars Cassimi, and right now Mars is combust. It's like the sun is burning Mars, and that's often said to like suggest that Mars is then in this weakened position, if you will. But the whole point of this is the combustion thing. And I just think of how, okay, Scorpio can also have this side to it where it can be self-destructive, right? There's self-sabotage that can come from this energy. There is the thing of going inward, right? So inwardly, like attacking themselves. Of course, this can look like all sorts of horrible things like addiction, self-medicating. I could go on and say, like, you probably have a fair idea of what I'm trying to get at. But those things to harm themselves, basically, those actions to harm themselves. I mean, even starving them, like starvation as another example there. But this energy, if you can imagine, is really quite scary. It's especially scary for people who have Scorpios in their lives and they care about them and they love them, and to see them in that place, that's hard. But of course, the thing about it is there is this other side to this sign where they are reborn. Okay, they can show that resilience. And I also think, with that being said, this is also why I think it's important in this respect to check in on your Scorpio friends to see how they're doing. Like, there's intense feelings, there's intense emotions there for Scorpios. So yeah, I just think that Scorpios need to know that they have people in their lives that they can trust and depend on. Now, with that being said, the thing about the Scorpion in this instance, okay, is this can often be seen as like the less evolved version of Scorpio. And then the Phoenix is more seen as like the more evolved version. Now, what I further want to say with this is that the sign of Scorpio also has other symbols tied to it, like the spider, the snake, the wolf, the monkey, the eagle as well, which we're not going to get into. But I also want to mention with this that Scorpion side, okay, that isn't less important than the other symbols. It's not less important than the Phoenix. They're all important. They all play like a valuable role. So the Scorpion and the Phoenix, they both play a valuable role. So I think that this the Scorpio energy just shows that self-control. I think it shows that resilience, the strength, the power associated with this archetype. And then looking to the Phoenix, of course, like I said, it represents that transformation and rebirth, that part of it. But kind of just jumping back a minute to the flames and the combustion side, I think that side to it can show even the passion or like the rage that comes out. The thing about Scorpio, right? Let's take this a step back. Let's think about how I said that with scorpions, they can burrow underneath. The thing about Scorpio is that it can repress, okay? Repressing their emotions, stuffing them down. But the thing about that is that emotions don't just go away because you repress them. They need to be released. Okay, they need to be processed in a healthy way. And this is why Scorpio must learn to channel their emotions into something more productive and healthy for them. So I think that even the phoenix, we think of the flames and the combustion and this like show that's put on. Maybe this is their way of like, this is a symbol of them processing their emotions or channeling their emotions into something that's powerful. Very, very, very interesting. The thing, of course, as well, I just want to say with the whole thing, the whole part of it of repressing emotions, that can have like repressing our emotions can have serious impacts on our bodies, right? Serious impacts on our physical bodies, our physical health. So again, I think this goes back to the whole phoenix thing of soaring, soaring and like embracing your emotions, if you will. Having a place for our emotions, and I mean, even emotions that it's like loads of people say it's low vibe vibration. Like no, feel your emotions. Sorry, I've got moon in the 8th house. Okay, I get really passionate. But I'm like, no, anger's not bad. Jealousy's also not bad. Like, oh. Okay, anyway, okay, time to reel back in. There's a place basically for our emotions, right? There's a place, and they can be channeled in healthy ways, right? So this is what I'm trying to get at. This is what we learn. This is what we learn from Scorpio. Eddie, you said that you get jealous. Yeah, you know, we get jealous, and it's like you just see so many messages of just like, oh well, that's negative, that's bad, and it's like, well, you need to look at the context behind the jealousy for one. Like, why is that? But anyway, I am going off on a little bit of a tangent there. I got really passionate about it. So anyway, that is what I want to talk about to do with the scorpion and the phoenix. And then the last thing with it, of course, is that fairy glyph. So if you look at that glyph, the symbol of Scorpio shows what looks like a scorpion stinging tail. Okay, there's a dagger at the end. This can represent the passion, the passionate desire to get to the heart of any situation or experience. It can be suggested that it signifies Scorpion's even like primal sexual nature as well, right? And there's a whole lot of like symbolism there to do with the Scorpio dagger with the M, but then there's also the Virgo M, where there's the little loop at the end. So there's a whole difference there. So it's interesting. Okay, so that is the symbol. Now, of course, Scorpio is a water sign. All right, so water signs, they are very much more intuitive, emotional, sensitive. It's also a fixed sign. So fixed signs are determined, they're focused. And this is about sustaining whatever element it is. So this is like holding emotion in its place, if you will. This fixed water energy is sort of like a dark well. You look down a well and it's so dark, and that I think shows the mysteriousness of this sign. This shows the intensity of their emotions as well. And also I think this even shows like the whole, you never really know what to expect from a Scorpio. There's always an element of like mysteriousness, right? Or there's the whole transformation, of course, with it, where the, you're just they will surprise you. Okay, Scorpios will shock you. They will surprise you with their ability to transform, to overcome. The resilience of Scorpios is next level. We're not going to talk too much about that part, but then the eighth house as well is the house that Scorpio rules traditionally, which we're going to talk about the eighth house in a moment. And then, of course, looking here to the ruling planets. So Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, and then Pluto in modern day astrology. Okay, so Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio. Right. So looking at the glyphs there, so you can see from Mars, the glyph of Mars shows a circle, and this represents spirit. So spirit, of course, shows that boundlessness, the eternity. This circle shows us that we are like divine by nature. And then the arrow shows an upward motion. So the spirit is being like held down by the force of that arrow. And then this arrow can also be used to raise humans' animal energy to higher levels of consciousness. You know, even think about that from an evolutionary standpoint. Like, we have evolved as humans, right? You know, we have evolved, and I think this shows then the evolutionary process of humans, of us, basically. So that's really insightful, I think. But then I also think that this, at the same time, Mars, especially when related to Scorpio, reminds us that we still possess primal instincts, right? We still have like this animalistic side to us. And I think what it also reminds us is that, you know, the whole thing of the continuation of humanity, even through birth, for example. You consider a newborn baby being brought into the world. That is very I think that's very representative of Mars, if you will. It's new life, right? It's new beginnings, it's energy. And then there's that drive, you know, that driving force here. And what is it that drives you? That's very Mars. But then Pluto, you see, Pluto, if you look at the P symbol first and foremost, this is considered more of like the lower octave of Pluto. And it could be suggested as well that this P, it stands for power, possibly pain, but it's the symbol that corresponds with death, destruction, elimination as well. But then that higher octave, if you can see there, it looks like a chalice. And this is known as the Minerva. And the chalice is like, it looks like a large cup or a goblet. And so according to some sources, the chalice has long been a sacred symbol with a variety of meanings. It has symbolized the Holy Communion and the bloodshed of Jesus on the cross. And this symbol also shows a cross, and this signifies the rebirth that brings mankind to wisdom. You know, I think that this is so important when we think about this archetype, because with the rebirth brings another state of awareness, you know. I think that it shows like that the person that you were back then, whilst it was still you, and you're still that person, there's still like a part of it where you realize I've outgrown who I used to be. And I also think what Scorpio reminds us of is ignorance is bliss, and that whenever you become, what is it, like awakened or enlightened, or whenever you become more aware about your position or about a situation, you can't just hide it. You know, you can't just deny it anymore. And I think that there's a part of it where it's going to keep coming back. This is Pluto energy. It's like, no, 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 no. You're not just going to try and push me away, right? Pluto, if you think about Pluto, it's on the way, 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 way out, right? It's the furthest planet. Of course, it's seen technically as a dwarf planet today, but it's out there, and it's in a very dark, dark place over at the Kuiper Belt. So I think that this shows us that we can sort of do this. We can sort of in a way, deny Pluto. We can kind of go, oh, well, I'm just going to keep pushing that. Again, going back to the repressing our emotions. But Pluto doesn't just disappear. Pluto persists. It's like, I'm going to keep coming. I'm going to keep coming until you do something here. So Pluto symbolizes that death and rebirth process to life, and it's associated with renewal. It's associated with spiritual growth, okay? We're encouraged to face our inner demons and our fears that hide beneath the surface, within our psyche, within our unconscious. We are asked to sort of burn and destroy old patterns that latch onto our psyche, and they can be poisonous. Again, going back to the stinger to do with Scorpio. So to instead create something new and more powerful. And by doing so, we come out as a transformed person with more awareness, greater understanding, perhaps greater empathy as well. That's a big thing. Greater empathy and wisdom. And so even when I take this a step back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got so passionate about what I was saying earlier. I'm like, but you know what? I used to think that way. I'm calling myself out. I used to think that way. I used to think, like jealousy, that's a really bad emotion and you shouldn't experience it. But I've learned that no, that's not the case. So yeah, I think that even just shows that the things that we have worked through, that we've worked on, we've overcome perhaps. It's important to recognize that, there was once upon a time whenever that wasn't the case. So maybe there's a great deal of humility in this as well. Right. So the other thing is that Scorpio rules. So the body parts that Scorpio rules would be the reproductive organs and then blood as well. So that to me, just with the reproductive organs, very, very interesting. SEX, sexuality as well. I would also say, again, going back to the whole thing of sustaining life or creation, survival, these types of things. We're not going to talk too much about that. I actually just want to jump straight into the 8th house here, and let's explore the 8th house. There's a lot to the 8th house. And I know that I'm not reading your comments right now. There's just a lot of comments there. And I'm really just trying to get through this. And any comments that, that I see, I will respond later on perhaps, or just, give me time. But anyway, let's look at this 8th house energy. So, the 8th house then looks at any unresolved trauma. That's a big thing. And I think that even sort of what that connects in with is the whole thing of the fixed water, right? So certain emotions that are like steel, or like they're held, and it's like, move that energy. It needs to be moved. It needs to be released. It needs to be processed. Okay. That fixed water combination, and that can be challenging, as well. But yeah, the unresolved trauma part of it, the 8th house then looks at us working through any unresolved trauma and how bloody and like transformative that can be for us to come out the other end and to think, oh my gosh, like I did a lot of inner work there. There were so many uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable emotions, but I actually had the courage to work through those things. Huge. It's huge, that. And then the other thing is, of course, the whole thing to do with the 8th house in terms of, so shared resources, shared money, looking here even at inheritances, trust funds. What I find interesting about people who have loads of placements in the 8th house is, especially if you have the sun in the 8th house, there's something here about like being born into a situation where, maybe your parents saved up a good bit of money for you and they were able to like support you in this way. right? They had a trust fund in your name, something like this. Or it could be that, there was an inheritance in some way, perhaps most likely from the father, because the sun represents the father in astrology. So there can be an inheritance from the father, but still, that eighth house energy can look at inheritance. So what is sort of passed on to us after perhaps like a loved one passes away. This could be an uncle, this could be an auntie, this could be your mother, this could be your father. People with moon in the eighth house, it could be the mother. People with sun in the eighth house, it could be the father. Still not nice to think about, especially when it comes to death. Okay, in this respect. And the other thing I just want to say with this, just because someone passes on inheritance money to you doesn't mean that it's all fine and dandy, right? It is shocking how oh gosh, I'm about to go on another rant. Oh gosh, I'm passionate today. I'm passionate about Scorpio. Whew. But anyway, you would be shocked at the amount of chaos and drama that is stirred up from inheritance money. You think about like siblings, rivalry between siblings. It's like, oh no, well, I should have got that money, and oh, it should have been in my name, and oh my goodness, you see that energy come out? You see that energy come out? Be cautious of that. Whew, that's intense stuff. Okay, so that's something to do with the eighth house. And then the other thing about this is insurance, right? Insurance, your car insurance, your house insurance, your phone insurance. Oh my goodness, there's insurance for everything. Life insurance. Oh, all the really boring stuff, to be honest. Boring. Just boring. But necessary. Oh my goodness, is it necessary? Oh. But yeah, insurance falls into the eighth house. Debt as well. Be cautious of that. Gathering debt. Of course, I think most people on the planet are in debt. Most people. So this is the eighth house. It looks at our debts. Even if you have a mortgage, for example, there you go. There's debt right there. If you have a university degree and you took out a loan in order to afford that university degree, there's debt right there. Taxes as well fall under the eighth house. Tax fraud as well falls under the eighth house. You could even say that there, people with eighth house energy, if there's maybe difficult like aspects, and maybe if Neptune's there, Pluto's there with really, really challenging aspects, it's like, are you paying your taxes? Is there any like shady business going on there? But yes, I just wanted to explain that. Also charges, right? Charges, fees. Oh my goodness, there's charges for everything. Everything. You never get away from the charges. Oh, so yeah, this is eighth house stuff right here. Lawsuits. Now, the thing about this, I want to say, it's interesting because the seventh house can also look at like legal matters. The ninth house can also look at legal matters. Seventh house is more the lower courts. Ninth house is more the higher courts. Still legal situations there. But I think the eighth house can also look at lawsuits, especially, for example, if you're being sued by someone. Okay, this is eighth house territory. Be careful when it comes to the eighth house. Even transits, like, of course, with the thing of having placements in the eighth house, it's not just about you, other people, right? Neptune in the eighth house, for example, it's like, be really careful if you're going through like an eighth house Neptune transit. Be cautious of like any shady, deceptive situations going on with people. Okay, another thing then is the eighth house looks at our partner's money, right? The type of money that our partner makes, and also shared resources. So whenever you, for example, come together with your partner, how is it that you share, right? And what is it that you bring to the partnership? What is it that the other person brings to the partnership? And then you're married, or you get a house together. Of course, you might not be married, you still get a house together. There's still that sharing, right? The eighth house is so much about sharing. All right. And it's not just about like um solely, shared resources, but it's also how you share. uh, how able are you to like trust another person in order to share with them? And that's another thing. The eighth house likes at trust. So much about trust, so much about like emotional bonding. Okay, how you bond with someone in an emotional way, in an intimate way. And of course, that intimacy, that emotional bonding requires trust. So that's a big eighth house matter. And the other thing about the eighth house is that it looks at the taboo, it looks at the occult as well. Okay, so like with the taboo stuff, so things that maybe are prohibited, things where it's like, oh, hush, hush, oh, we can't talk about that. Oh, that's bad. We oh no, no, no. You know, the eighth house can then look at, actually, no, let's address this. Let's discuss this situation, because I'm not going to shy away from it. I'm not going to hide from this situation. Scorpio energy is very much about bringing truth to light. So yes, you can find things that are somewhat more taboo in the eighth house. And talking about money is quite a taboo subject for a lot of people. Talking about sex is quite a taboo subject for a lot of people as well. So taboo. The occult as well. So you think about like paranormal things, witchcraft, even like astrology would be considered as like an occult like practice, palmistry, but the thing about this occult stuff is that, oh my gosh, it gets such a bad rap. It gets such a bad rap. Often when it comes to astrology, it's just instantly associated with like the devil, it's like devil worship, devil, 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 it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so this is all very much eighth house territory. But let's even think about it in a beneficial way in this respect, because what you notice when it comes to people with eighth house placements is that they can be great at reading between the lines. They can be great at like tapping into other energies, other like dimensions, if you will. You think about tarot card readers, channelers, healers, spiritual teachers, this type of stuff, these types of things. Then psychology is another thing. Okay, exploring the psychology. I'm pretty sure Sigmund Freud Sigmund Freud had a Scorpio rising. Um, Carl Jung, he was an Aquarius rising, Leo sun in the 7th. So that would mean you'd have the Virgo energy in the 8th. I can't quite remember if he had any planets in Virgo. I can't remember, to be honest with you, but you maybe get my point. That the psychology part of it, perhaps you can notice psychologists or psychotherapists who may have sort of eighth house placements, because that's the thing, when exploring the psyche, that can be a very transformative thing. And it's also about working closely with patients. And the other thing as well is, it's just down below there a little bit, but surgeries. This is the eighth house stuff, surgeries. That makes sense to me, because if you go for surgery, that, for example, if it's like open heart surgery, that can be life-threatening, right? That can be really scary. And then even on that note, the eighth house looks at life transitions, major life transitions. So, for example, right, let's say you are in a car accident, right? And that car accident, it completely changes your life. Like, let's say you can't walk after it. That's the eighth house stuff right there. That's massive. Let's say, for example, you have a child, right? pregnancy, birth, that is transformative. Like the birth of a child transforms the life of the mother. And if you can even imagine it like this, like let's say that the birth itself is life threatening. That is huge. And these are the types of things that Scorpio, its house territory, thinks about, and not even thinks about, but feels and knows. These are the extremes of life. And it's like, this may, okay, sure, this may not happen, but what if it did? What if it did? And what would that mean? So, yes, life transitions can also be located within the eighth house. And then the other thing about this is divorce. Okay, the seventh house can also look at divorce, it can look at marriage, but that eighth house stuff, especially when it comes to like shared resources, when it comes to who gets time with the children or who gets what amount of money and all this stuff, that can be, oh my gosh, that can be hard. That can be really, really hard. You think about the divorce side of things. And financial planning, especially joint financial planning. So this kind of goes back to the whole thing of you sharing with another. And it's about that joint financial planning effort. Not just two people, of course, this can be a few people, right? You think about even the eighth house that looks at other people's money. It could be a house where it shows enterprise, entrepreneurship. It can be a house that shows business, right? So it looks at that joint financial planning process that occurs. Vulnerability. Vulnerability is a big word for the eighth house. How vulnerable are you? And it's not just about being vulnerable with your significant other. This is also about vulnerability when it comes to your friends. This is also about speaking with a therapist, for example, right? Unresolved trauma, speaking with a therapist. But if you're not vulnerable, you're not really going to get anywhere. You go for therapy and you don't open up at all, you're not really going to get anywhere. So the eighth house requires vulnerability. I think it requires vulnerability as well when it comes to transformation. And then another thing is commitments. The eighth house is so much a house of commitment and personal power there as well. Personal power. You hear about a lot of people and they say, oh, well, I was really wrapped up in this situation, but you know what? I realized that I could take my power back. That's often what's said. I took my power back. So I think that can even look at, whenever a certain planet maybe transits the eighth house, it's like a day of realization. It's a revelation. It's like, what am I doing? What am I doing in this relationship? What am I doing in this group? This is not good for me. I don't want to be here. And it's like, I'm taking my power back. And you transform. And the last thing I've said there is loss. Okay. And this is a heavy one, a really heavy one to do with the eighth house, because this can look at grief. Grief, my goodness, grief is it's not just something where, oh well, my parent died and I went through the grieving process and I am all better. No, it stays with you. Stays with you. Could even be a certain relationship, right? A relationship, a breakup, right? A breakup that was so horrendous. It was hard to make that decision, but to process the emotions tied to that relationship, you need to be slow. The thing about the eighth house, I just want to say before we move on, is it's not something that can be forced. This is not a house where you just go into it and you think about the energies going in, and if you have any planets there, it's like, oh well, it's going to go quick. I think in this way it shows the unpredictability of this house, and it shows that there's ebbs and flows. So yeah, I just want to say that it's not a house to be rushed or forced. Okay. Hello everyone joining. Hello. Hi, Danielle. Welcome. Hi, Anya. Synergy, hello. Baby, hi. Yes, Eddie. Hi. Victoria, hello to you. Chris, hi, welcome. Maddie, hi. Um, who else? Who else? Who else? Lumina, hello, hi. But yes, hello everyone, welcome. I hope you are enjoying this presentation today. Okay, so let's now move on to a few other things. I'm going to try my best to keep this shorter. But the day of the week that Mars rules is Tuesday. Of course, Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, so that is Tuesday. Of course, Tuesday is an action-packed day for most people. And so Mars is home in Scorpio. Mars performs really, really well in Scorpio. Here is why. Well, this is my opinion coming from my own sort of view on this. Of course, Mars is actually in Scorpio right now. But Mars in Scorpio suggests that there is just amazing self-control, focus, self-discipline, self-mastery also comes into this. I think as well, there's the whole thing with Mars and Scorpio of not giving away too much, being able to sort of move behind the scenes, being able to keep to oneself without sharing all your private information. I'm pretty sure I read I think it was during the research that I did for Mars and Scorpio leader. The Mars and Scorpio leader actually have a series all about the Mars signs based on leadership. Unfortunately, Mars and Aries was taken down because of the clips that I used. It wouldn't let me. That's unfortunate, of course. But um, Jennifer Aniston, she has Mars in Scorpio. And I'm pretty sure that I read that she does not have social media, right? She doesn't have Instagram. She doesn't share any sort of private information, personal information about herself. This is Mars and Scorpio energy. It's like, I'm going to be smart about this. I'm going to be smart about my moves. Why should I tell my business to the whole world as well? It can be used against me, right? You think about the internet, right? The thing about the internet is that as soon as you post something online, it's there for life. It could be on any corner of the internet, right? So that Mars and Scorpio sort of goes, okay, right. Maybe not post that then. Oh, maybe not share that then, right? So there's a strategy in this way. There's a strategy. This isn't, of course, to say that all people with Mars and Scorpio don't post anything on the internet that they regret later on, and that the information is used against them in some shape or form. But it's the point of this is that this is what this energy invites. This is what it suggests, right? It's this type of mentality, and it is about being strategic in this respect. And I think that this is also why Mars and Scorpio can do so well. And then, of course, there is the determination, the determination toward a certain goal. Danielle, you said Taylor Swift has Mars and Scorpio. Yeah, it does. Explains a lot about Taylor Swift. There's strategy to this Mars sign. So let's move on to Venus. Venus is in detriment whenever it is in Scorpio. This isn't to say that it's a bad thing. When it's in detriment, it says, okay, it lacks force. Okay, there's not as much force in this way. So let's try and break this down in perhaps more of a simplified way. But Venus in Scorpio, if you think about Scorpio energy, it can be very intense, very deep, very profound. And that can be intimidating for some people. It's not to say that their way of loving or showing their affection, showing their love is wrong or it's bad. I'm not saying that, but that intensity can come to some people. Perhaps it can be intimidating, and then I think as well that when it comes to like a breakup or the ending of a relationship, it can take a long time for Venus and Scorpio to really like process that, and also the trust part of it as well. The trust part of it comes into this quite strongly. So you think about someone with Venus and Scorpio, and they've been in a relationship, and maybe they got to a point of trust and commitment and devotional and all of this, and there's the intimacy and everything. But then what if it comes to an end? And if it does come to an end, there's just there's a lot of, I suppose there's the grieving in that respect. There's the loss in that respect. And then I suppose maybe what the difficulty in this is how they trust moving forward, how it is that they relate and connect to someone after. Even think about friendships, okay? So this Venus and Scorpio energy can suggest, oh, someone perhaps they've been hurt, they've been scorned, right? They've been scorned by friends, they've been bullied, they've been teased, these types of things, which of course they were not their friends in the first place if that is what they did. But yes, the thing is, the bringing that stuff into the next relationship and then assuming that someone else is going to do the same to you, right? And there's of course there's a lot to this, and I think that this suggests, of course, with this energy, it's to be worked through. But then of course at the same time, projecting that onto the next partner, like, oh, maybe they're going to let me down, or maybe they're going to do the same things to me, and that partner may not do those things at all. That can be challenging. So there's some of that involved. And then I would even say with this is Venus and Scorpio energy can at times lean toward control, needing to control, needing to sort of control how the relationship goes so that they themselves feel more safe and protected. The thing about this energy and Scorpio energy in general, I just want to say, there can often be a fear of vulnerability, right? It goes back to the trust. And I think that trust is even established through honesty and also actions. Actions speak louder than words for Scorpio. Very much so. So that I would want to say that about Venus and Scorpio, but at the same time, of course, Venus and Scorpio it also shows that when it comes to love, there can be such a devotion and there can be such an intimate connection. And this isn't just about connecting sexually on an intimate level in this respect, but this is also about on an emotional level where there is trust and there's safety. Protection is another thing. Protection is a big word when it comes to Scorpio energy too. So yes, that would be, I would just want to cut that off there. There's more that I could say about Venus and Scorpio, but we got to think about time. Time. Right, so let's move on to the exaltation of Scorpio. Uranus is said to be exalted in Scorpio. Perhaps this could be disputed or debated on, but here's my view. I'm going to try and slow down a little bit to think about this, about the exaltation. So, Uranus and Scorpio exalted. I think that, so basically with exalted, it means it's fully expressed. The energy is fully expressed. And what I want to consider is Uranus being in Scorpio the last time and that generation, and how perhaps it related to many breakthroughs when it came to the likes of horror, investigation, research, crime. Maybe this even looks at this sort of revolutionary standpoint tied to these areas. And as well, maybe this also looks at like a mighty release, a release that is so profound, and a type of release that can help shape and influence generations to come, can sort of help shape society in the future. So we'll talk more about this at the very, very end whenever we look at Uranus in Scorpio and what sort of events happened during that time. So I'm going to move on again, time. But then we have the fall of Scorpio. Okay. So the fall of Scorpio would be moon. So the moon falls in Scorpio. This means that the energy is diminished. And I think, so let's think about the protection. Again, going back to protection. The moon looks at protection and safety, but then Scorpio itself is also about protection. And so when we look here at moon in Scorpio, what this can suggest is, well, for one, there can be the real protectiveness, like the shielding, this shielding energy, this guarded energy, this I cannot let anybody in, especially if I've been hurt, especially if I've been scorned, especially if I've been humiliated. And it's that the processing of that, maybe this is the thing about both Venus and Moon. Okay, so let's consider how Venus and Moon are these more sort of feminine planets in astrology. And it's more, and then maybe a better way to put it is these are receptive planets. We'll go with that, right? They're much more receptive. But I think the Scorpio coming along, with both Moon and Venus in Scorpio, it says, I'm not actually so open. That's kind of opposite of what these planets represent or signify. You think about that receptive energy, the attractive energy, especially with Venus. But yeah, the Scorpio energy, it's not so open. It's like, well, I'm not just going to let you in so easily, so quickly. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, I don't think, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that this shows that you really do need to work, so to speak. You need to work to show Scorpio that you care. Okay, let's focus on Moon and Scorpio. That you care, that you can be trusted. And the thing is that underneath this archetype is this compassion and this, even I would say, this giddiness, or like this mushy, like corny. So you just need to keep pulling back the layers. This is Scorpio energy. It's like an onion or like a cake. It's just so many layers. And it takes time. Being with okay, we'll relate it back again to Venus and Scorpio and Moon in Scorpio, but being with a person who has either Venus or Moon in Scorpio, you can't just force them to just accept, like, oh yeah, we're so chummy now, or like, yeah, you're my best friend instantly. No. And this is the thing I'm trying to say. This is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. And maybe what this even suggests is that these are the types of people who know their boundaries in this way. They know their boundaries. But then again, the thing about this too is Scorpio energy can also push other people's boundaries. Scorpio energy can be like, yeah, I don't like being told that, or I don't like being told no. It's my way. Maybe this is where we notice some of this diminished energy, because if Venus and Moon are more receptive and like open energies, then that the Scorpio energy of saying, oh no, well, this is my way and this is just how it is, there's not much room for compromise. You're not really giving us anything here. Venus energy, where's the compromise? Where's the give and take in this situation? It's all about what you want to do. Okay, the Mars influence. oh, it's all about your pain and you've been hurt and you've been through X, Y, and Z. But what about me? You know, the partner of someone who has Venus and Scorpio is like, well, what about me? Where's the give and take in this? And then the moon in Scorpio energy can then be like, well, I feel this. I feel so intensely about this. And I want everybody else around me to know that I feel this. And I feel this way so strongly. Well, slow down a second. Just because someone feels as intense, just because you feel intensely about a situation, doesn't mean everybody else should or that they do. Okay, I'm not coming for Moon and Scorpios. I'm really not. I'm saying this with love. I'm just going off really like what is coming to my mind. And it does. It relates back to pushing other people's boundaries. It's all well and good. Moon and Scorpio, it's like, no, well, these are my emotional boundaries and this is how I feel. But to then start to go toward other people and to push your feelings on them. I'm also kind of talking to myself here, by the way. I've got Moon in the 8th house, like I said. Okay, I can see some of these qualities within myself, especially whenever I was younger. But yes, the whole thing of pushing on other people, it doesn't really leave any room for like that exchange or that give and take. Scorpio energy can also go to extremes. And that's the other thing I want to say with this that came to my mind earlier. Yes, Venus and Scorpio can look at that devotion, okay? Whenever perhaps they're more mature, someone with this placement is more mature. But Venus and Scorpios can also be known for like really shitty behavior, deceptive behavior, lies, deceit, all this stuff. When they're more unevolved, secrets, okay? There can be secrecy. Yeah, okay. I can't. I'm trying to say this with love. I really am. Yeah. So that Venus in Scorpio energy can lean toward that. And that's the thing with Scorpio energy in general. Even the moon in Scorpio, going back to that, there can be the secrecy. You know, it's like, well, how are you feeling? And then they're not actually being honest with you about how they're feeling. They're keeping it all in. And again, it is about them taking their own time to go through that. But what could then happen is like out of nowhere, there's like this or like this explosion, and you're like, oh my gosh, where did that come from? Like, oh, like I thought we were good. I thought we were okay. And like, you're not okay. Oh, so if you can understand that can like bring a lot of like emotional chaos or disruptions. Basically, that moon and Scorpio energy can be that like emotionally disruptive. Let's go with with that. You may not know when it's going to come. Right, it's like they're keeping it in and then you think they're good. you're, you're not good. Okay. Now, with that being said, I want to say here that there's a difference between privacy and secrecy. Okay? We are all entitled to our own privacy. And to be fair, you know, if you have a secret that you want to keep, yeah, keep that secret, but just saying that there is a difference, right? There is a difference between privacy and secrecy. And I think Moon and Scorpio energy knows that they have their own privacy and they're entitled to their privacy. Again, I say this through this lens of I have my moon in the 8th house, and when I think about this, I'm like, yes, I'm learning this, that I'm allowed to keep things for me. You know, I, I'm allowed to have my own private world, my own private life. So if you think about Moon and Scorpio, if they can sense that you're trying to like dig into their privacy, their private life, and especially if they're not ready to share it with you, oh, you're done. You're done. Do not It needs to be on their terms. Okay. Right. So we're gonna move on. Oh, sorry, just another thing. Okay, maybe this is the thing about the diminished energy of the moon, right? This is the thing. I just want to say. You think about so the fall of moon in Scorpio, there can be the extremes. Okay. Um, the extremes where it's like, oh my gosh, I am going completely dead silent. Or it's like, I am feeling every single emotion there is under the sun. I'm like, you know, that the lack of equilibrium, okay, that can be quite the challenge, right? So that is what I want to say with that too. And I think something that Moon and Scorpios often battle with is trying to like regulate. I'm kind of speaking to myself here. It's like trying to regulate those parts of themselves. But that requires it requires a lot of digging into the past, trying to like process things to do with childhood. It requires some like awareness around how they feel. And I even just want to say with this that when we think about the nurturing that a moon in Scorpio receives, oh my gosh, it's protective. It can be protective, it can be compassionate. And maybe also the nurturing that a moon in Scorpio receives is that of know your boundaries, and also don't just trust anybody. So that's also what I want to say there. Okay, so we're going to move on again. There's more I could say. There's more I could say. But I need to move on. So there are the 3 decans of Scorpio. So we have 0 to 10 degrees from the 23rd of October to the 2nd of November. So if you are someone who was born on the 25th of October, you would be in the Scorpio decan. Even if you have Venus in Scorpio at 5 degrees, you would still be in that Scorpio decan. Then we have 10 degrees to 20 degrees from the 3rd of November to the 12th of November. So if you were someone who was born on the 11th of November, you would be part of that Scorpio Pisces decan. If you're someone with Mars in Scorpio at 11 degrees, you would be part of that. So we have 20 to 30 degrees from the 13th of November to the 22nd of November. So if you were born on let's go with the 20th of November, you're part of that Scorpio Cancer decan. Or maybe you have Mercury in Scorpio at, so, and you were born, hold on a second. Am I getting away with myself? Am I maybe getting away with myself? No. If you were born with Mercury in Scorpio at like 22 degrees, then again, you would have that Cancer Scorpio influence there. Whew, right. Okay. So I just wanted to break down the decans a little bit. I need to like take a minute. I need to take a minute because my energy is going and I need to like bring it down a little bit. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and ground myself and read through your comments. It's Chris. You said you had to learn how to ride the wave of life, not fight it. Ooh, interesting. Feels like balance is not real. Yeah, it can be difficult to find that balance. Yeah. Yeah. People can't feel what we feel and they don't have to. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You go by instinct, Fatal. Oh, that's interesting. You've got Cancer Moon as well. Okay, and then Danielle, you're sharing information about Taylor Swift. Okay. So yes, like I said, if say for example you were born with Mercury in Scorpio at 22 degrees, then you would be part of that Scorpio Cancer decan. All right. let's get on to what does Scorpio teach us? Often it's the things we don't see or say that we should pay attention to. Scorpio energy is great at reading between the lines and picking up on nuances within the environment. Little sort of body movements or gestures, what isn't said in a conversation, for example. It's like, oh, well, why was that not said? I wonder. We all go through transitions in life, some major, some minor. And that's very much a big thing that Scorpio teaches us. What we experience in childhood can influence how we approach relationships later in life. So you think about those beginning stages of life, how you were parented, how you were raised, the types of even relationships that you had with siblings or your friends whenever you were younger. These things can influence how you approach your relationships. And again, that kind of goes back to the whole unconscious element to Scorpio. We often don't realize that we are repeating certain patterns, or we're repeating what we learned in childhood. And that's where the inner work comes in as well, isn't it? Repressing our emotions doesn't make them go away. I think that's something that I already touched on earlier. There are certain subjects that are a big no for people. Okay. I think that goes back to the whole thing of Scorpio pushing boundaries. And I think as well, this even looks at when we think about the taboo, again, tied to the 8th house, Scorpio energy can sort of be like, oh, well, we should talk about these things, but maybe certain people aren't comfortable talking about those things. And again, it's not about necessarily trying to push, for, oh, no, but we should, maybe there just are certain areas that are uncomfortable for some people. There is a difference between privacy and secrecy, which we touched on already. Being vulnerable might not happen overnight. Build trust. Okay? You need to build trust. Some people, of course, can be vulnerable right off the bat. Opening up about their life story, about what happened to them whenever they were 5 or whatever. Just you get the story. But a lot of people, no. It's about building trust. It's about the people who you trust the most, the people who are in your inner circle, who are a part of that. And I think the other thing, just to go off on this as well a little bit, what comes to my mind is when you open up, this is the thing about secrecy, maybe. When you open up and you share a secret with a friend, right? It is a secret, and it's clear that it's a secret, but because it's something that it's very personal to you, and it's something that you want to keep between you and them. When you do that, that is about trust. But the thing is that if that person is to go and tell your secret to someone else, trust ruined. That's the thing too about trust. Trust takes so long to build, but it takes a second to break. That's big. That's Scorpio. So trust needs to be, there needs to be sensitivity around trust. To not take trust lightly. This is what Scorpio teaches us. Even think about it further. Consider the trust that is established in a relationship. So you have established that trust. Maybe let's just say, for example, you are with your significant other and you have established, yep, we are together, we're committed. It goes back to the 8th house, commitment. We are committed. And the commitment in this is that I'm only sleeping with you, you're only sleeping with me. Okay. What if the one of them goes and kisses another person on a night out? Trust. You know, and also all of the emotions tied to that. The hurt, the pain, the regret, the shame, all of that stuff. Big. Now, again, this looks at context. It's not just black and white. It's not just black and white when it comes to this type of stuff. But the whole point I'm trying to get at is that trust is a big Scorpio theme. It can be difficult to identify when we are sabotaging ourselves. Yeah. We can be blinded to it, I think. I think it can be hard for us to know whenever we're on a self-destructive path, whenever we are not doing so good, and maybe it takes for like a friend or a partner to sort of like shake you and go, "What are you doing to yourself?" You know, not literally, but you know what I mean, like hypothetically. Come on, wake up, stop like being self-destructive. It is possible to fixate too heavily on things without seeing the bigger picture. And this is what we learn from Sagittarius is how to see the bigger picture. Indeed. Scorpio energy can, of course, fixate. Hi, Nikki. Welcome. All right. So the strengths of Scorpio. Perceptive, does not take things at face value. This can sometimes be a downside to this sign as well. But if we think about it in a strength, or as a strength, or in a positive way, yeah, you know, it's like, why should I just believe what this person is telling me? You know, why? Not just going to follow blindly here, right? So, yeah, that can be really beneficial. And of course, they can be insightful. That Scorpio can be extremely insightful. And like I said, perceptive, strong, determined, driven, resilient. My goodness, excellent self control, excellent self discipline. Absolutely. Like, probably, I would say Scorpio and Capricorn possess the strongest self control and self discipline. Spiritual, empathetic, and intuitive. Okay, so yeah, many Scorpios can be very, very much in tune with their, their spiritual selves. They may take part in spiritual practices. They can be compassionate. They can be empathetic. And like I was saying earlier, this is something that I mentioned, but I didn't really get too much into. We were saying there about there's the inner core of Scorpio that can be mushy and cuddly and cute. Right? There can be, I think there is like this cutesy side to Scorpio, this funny side, this giddy side, this excited bunny side. Yeah. And like I said, intuitive as well. Very much intuitive. Charismatic. Oh, especially Scorpio risings. Charismatic. My goodness. Um, they can certainly I would even say light up a room in a way, with their charisma. Okay, in touch with their asexuality, their deepest desires. Also, this is a sign of intimacy, and this is definitely a strength of Scorpio to be intimate with others, to be able to open up, and to be honest with each other. But yeah, they can be very much in touch with their asexuality. And able to like explore their deepest desires, even think about things that are more taboo, this type of stuff. If they trust you enough, maybe they're more willing to explore what is seen as taboo to other people, and to go with it. Courage, of course, to explore the taboo, to explore what is prohibited, which is put there. And I think as well, maybe this is also part of Pisces. It's the whole thing, again, back to deepest desires, but there's the whole part of it of being able to explore your asexual fantasies in this respect. Again, maybe this is also tied to Pisces because of the fantasy world, but yeah, I still think there's the Scorpio elements in this. And having no shame in that, actually, having no shame in exploring those fantasies. Regeneration and change on a next level. Powerful. Scorpio energy is the type of energy you may know them now. 2 years from now, it's almost like they're completely different people. It feels so different. They seem different, they look different, they appear different, they act different. Maybe they're in a completely different role, you know. But yes, transformation like no other. Deep, profound, passionate. Whew. Maybe this is part of the reason for why they're so driven, you know, because there's that passion. But the passion goes through its own transformational process. This also happens. Can be great healers as well. Okay. This is the thing I want to say with this, and it's an idea that came to my mind a while ago. But it's the whole thing of why certain signs turn up in your life. You know, for example, if you meet a Cancerian, maybe there's a reason for why they're turning up in your life. No evidence behind this at all, of course. This is just like a fun thing that I thought of. It's like, what is the reason? You know, maybe there's a reason for why we meet different signs at the right time, at the right moment. So yes, maybe the reason for Scorpios turning up in our lives is that from meeting a Scorpio, maybe you can sense, oh, I'm about to go through a transformation in my life. Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, maybe that'd be more. Maybe I would like to explore more of that someday. But anyway, investigative can figure anything out. Scorpio has the receipts. Okay, you say, "Oh no, I didn't do that. I didn't say that." Scorpio's like, so I have a message from you at 11:15 on Monday, the 10th, and it says right here, you know, yeah, that is Scorpio energy. Oh, and they do it so well. Don't try to con a Scorpio. Don't try to mislead a Scorpio. They'll catch on. Okay. Well, to be fair, don't try to con or mislead anybody. But anyway, let's go on. Let's look at the weaknesses of this sign. And I think, you know what, even just following on from the previous point, to do with transformation, right? You know, we're saying about how they transform massively. I suppose that was one of the most previous points. The thing about this is I've put there self-destructive and turbulent. Yeah. So Scorpio is the type of energy that can soar, 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 like the phoenix, like, oh my gosh, like I'm transforming, I'm on the up. It's like, wow. But it can also go the other way, where it's like, well, spiral, 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 down the well, down the well, down the well, down the well, boom, you know, and that can be a really heavy, heavy place. A heavy place. If you have any Scorpios in your life who you love, check in on them. Okay. I think Scorpio is the type of energy that really desires to be told, like, you know, I really, really care about you. And sure, you know, Scorpios may not necessarily be like super open and like, oh, lovey dovey in this way to your face. But they feel it, right? They feel the love. You show them love, they'll feel the love. So yes, self-destructive and turbulent when we look to the weaknesses of Scorpio. Self-sabotage, of course, going back to self-sabotage, they can go to extremes, no in between. Can be manipulative, can be shady, can be controlling, right? It's like they'll not show you their hand, they'll not show you what's going on underneath the surface. They can manipulate a situation as a way to get what they want, as a way to get their way. So there is that. Like I said, then controlling, I think in this way, it's more so about getting their needs met. It can be quite a selfish energy. You think about Mars as well, ruling Scorpio. Yeah, you know, you think about the weaknesses of Scorpio, or Scorpios who are perhaps more less mature, mature Scorpios, unevolved in this way. Yeah, controlling, selfish. It's all about them. And they may also then manipulate the situation as a way to get their needs met. Vindictive. resentful, when hurt. Okay. And of course, like I was trying to say earlier, it's not bad to feel how we feel. You know, um, it kind of goes back to those emotions I was saying earlier about anger, jealousy, stuff like that. It's not a bad thing to feel those emotions, but it's what you do with those emotions, isn't it? And the thing about Scorpio energy is that if they feel resentful, the weakness side of it, the immature side of it is they will show that. They will show just how resentful they are, how bitter they are. Yeah. And of course, like I said, very sensitive. I'm not necessarily saying that them being sensitive is a bad thing in this respect, but I put sensitive there because I think that this ties in with the whole thing of them being super resentful. Possessive, demanding, cruel. Okay. Oh, this is heavy stuff. So yeah, Scorpios. If we look at it through a weak lens, if we look at it through like more of those perhaps seen as darker qualities or negative qualities, yeah, it can be cruel, possessive, suspicious as well. They can think that others are out to get them. Okay, everything's an attack. Everything's all. Everyone has a hidden agenda. Everyone wants what they have, or everyone thinks badly about them, or there's just something shady about that person. It's just all this suspicion. Like I said, I have my moon in the 8th house, and I can resonate with this. Too suspicious of people. I know throughout my life, being far too suspicious for my own good. And the other thing is they can have a hidden agenda themselves. They can have an ulterior motive. You just might not see it above the surface. And like I said, they will push boundaries and insist on having their way. You could say to them, hey, no, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to get into this conversation. I don't want to get into this discussion with you. And Scorpio energy just goes, I don't care. We are talking about this. Or you say, I need my space. I need to be alone right now. No, don't care. Just still insist, still push. So, yes, of course, with them, perhaps there's a lot going on within them psychologically and emotionally in this respect. But pushing other people's boundaries and not respecting their boundaries it's not really the way to go. Right. Let's move on to journaling questions to ask yourself. Right. How do I react when I'm experiencing an upheaval in my life? Am I able to open up and be vulnerable with others? Who do I trust? Do I feel safe? What relationships did I observe growing up? What did they teach me about intimacy? Has anybody hurt me in life, and how do I feel about it now? When in life have I proved to be resilient? Anybody I have lost? How do I cope with grief? What events come to my mind when I think about my own transformations? These are just some journaling questions. You can maybe screenshot this, think about it, what have you, and you can maybe come up with your own sort of answers. You can write them out. So I just thought that that would be useful. So consider, where is Scorpio in your house? So which house does Scorpio rule in your natal chart? Because this is going to show you the area of life where you transform, where you regenerate, where you probe, where you look beneath the surface, where you establish trust and emotional bonds. There's devotion, there's desire, there's vulnerability within the Scorpio house. We can go to extremes. We can be intense. We can be turbulent. This is also a house tied to intimacy, shared resources, the unconscious. This is a house that shows strength, resilience, and self mastery. Also, look at the ruling planet or planets of your Scorpio house, Mars and Pluto. Mars, especially for that personal element, I think. But yeah, Mars and Pluto, these planets are going to provide you with more information about your Scorpio house. And then when we look here, so these are the houses. So let's do a few examples. Let's say you have Scorpio in the 3rd house. Okay. So the 3rd house looks at our mindset, it looks at our education. So this could be where you are someone who transforms when it comes to your mindset, when it comes to your mental health, when it comes to conversation, right? And perhaps as well, this looks at fixations, like fixating mentally, fixating on an issue, thinking over and over and over a situation. Also, this looks at probing information, being an investigator, being a researcher, diving deeper into subjects, this type of stuff. But then let's say you have Scorpio in the sixth house, okay? So looking at health, looking at your productivity. If you've got Scorpio in the sixth house, you can go to extremes when it comes to your work, okay? When it comes to your daily activities, when it comes to your errands, running errands, when it comes even to your health, right? You can go to extremes, right? There can be a lack of balance in this way. And maybe a challenge for you is learning how to create greater like ease and balance for yourself. But then I would also say at the same time, transforming when it comes to your health, right? You even notice people who have Pluto in the sixth house or Scorpio in the sixth house, there can be like a health scare or like a wake up call when it comes to health. So, yeah, this looks at transformation, making like significant changes there. Also, when it comes to productivity, transforming when it comes to productivity, finding a sort of schedule or a routine that really works well for you. Um, but in a way that is more aligned, I suppose you could say. It's more aligned. Makes me actually think about the fact that Pluto is about to re enter Aquarius, and so it's going to transit my sixth house for many, many years. So that should be an interesting transit to say the least. I am hoping, of course, that no health scars come up for me. And if there is something that I need to learn about my health, okay, I need to take that on. Okay, so lastly, seeing as Eddie, you said the 10th house for you. I think you said you've got Scorpio in the 10th house. Let's explore that then for people who have Scorpio in the 10th house. 10th house is our life's work, our life's mission. It's our public life as well. So there's something here about your public image, your public life, of course, transforming and going through those significant transitions. And also, I would say that you may come across to in front of the public as someone who is really passionate and devoted and determined, and maybe as well you don't really share everything about your life on a public platform. I would say people with Scorpio in the 10th are a lot more like strategic about what they share on social media, about what's shown, what's seen. Um, and though at the same time there can be extremes, and like I said, Scorpio can also be quite charismatic. So yeah, perhaps there can even be extremes there. It's like, oh well, that was a wake up call, and maybe I'm not going to share this online anymore. But again, if we look at the life work part of it, maybe your life's work is strongly tied to your research, your investigations. It's tied to something occult like, something taboo like, these types of things. Okay, so now let's look to planets. What Scorpio planets do you have in your natal chart? Okay, so the parts of your personality are then tied to the Scorpio traits. The planets are going to show this. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and the rising are all going to be personal. If you want more information even about the personal planets, of course I know the rising sign isn't a planet, but anyway. But if you want more information about the personal planets, there are descriptions about Scorpio personal planets over on my Instagram, hannahselsewhere. But yeah, personal would be these planets, and then the rising sign. Jupiter, Chiron, and Saturn would be social interpersonal. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto would be generational. And then wherever Mars is placed, will tell you more information here about your Scorpio planets. Also look to Pluto as the dispositor there too. So yeah, Mars, the dispositor of the Scorpio planets, and then Pluto. And then also consider aspects. You also have to think about aspects to your Scorpio planets and consider houses linked to those planets. Basically, explore the bigger picture, folks. And remember the Decans, Scorpio, Pisces, and Cancer, based on those degrees like we were talking about earlier. And lastly, let's get into just these brief descriptions of the planets so then you can kind of understand what you're looking for. So if you've got the sun there, right, if you think about the sun, it looks like vitality and purpose. So when you're looking at the sun in Scorpio, it's going to tell you about your vitality and purpose. And then you got to think about the Scorpio traits that we talked about and how those things are connected. So I'll just run through the brief descriptions of each of the planets, and then you can sort of do your own, connecting of the dots, let's just say. Moon looks at emotions, our inner self. Mercury looks at communication, our thought process. Venus looks at values and worth and relationships. Mars looks at drive, motivation, and willpower. Jupiter then looks at experience and benevolence. Last time Jupiter was in Scorpio was from 2017 until 2018. Saturn looks at maturity and success. Saturn was last in Scorpio from 2012 until 2015. Chiron then looks at our wounds, looks at integration, our healing. Last time Chiron was in Scorpio was from 1996 until 1999. And then we move over here to the far right, showing the generational planets. So the ones on the far left are the personal planets. The ones in the center there, in the middle, those are your social planets. And then we have there the ones on the far right, the generational planets. So, like I was saying earlier, we were talking about the exaltation of Scorpio. Uranus is exalted in Scorpio. So, Uranus looks at social change, it looks at innovation. And a significant thing that happened when Uranus was in Scorpio last between 1974 and 1981, well, the MRI scanner came out. Okay, the MRI scanner in 1977. That's an interesting one, especially through like a technology lens. You think about Uranus, it looks at technological advancements, but the MRI scanner helping the doctors see to be able to see the baby inside of the womb, to see how well they're doing, are they safe, they doing okay, and also the ability for the mother to be able to see their baby in this respect. So that's quite interesting, I think, as well, especially seeing as I was talking about how the 8th house in Scorpio energy can look at those huge life transitions. So again, just to think more about the exaltation of Uranus in Scorpio, maybe what this is also indicating is like Uranus performs well in Scorpio, so to speak, because Uranus is about innovation. Uranus is about breakthroughs. And Scorpio is also about transformation. It's about breakthrough. So like those two those two together, it just shows like such change, like mighty, mighty change, powerful change in this respect on a collective level. Now, let's also explore Neptune. So last time Neptune was in Scorpio was from 1956 until 1970. So with this one, I'm just trying to lean in a little bit because I can't really see very well. I need my glasses. Ah, this is a live session, but it will be up after. Okay, so it'll be available to view afterwards if you missed this. Okay, I'm seeing better now. Excuse me. Okay. So we have here the cognitive revolution happened between 1950 in the 1950s, late 1950s to the 1960s. Right. This one I find really fascinating. Okay, so I have like just a little bit of information about this. So the cognitive approach began to revolutionize psychology in the late 1950s and early 1960s to become the dominant approach in psychology by the late 1970s. Let's see. The cognitive revolution occurred in the 1950s and was an intellectual shift explaining the internal mental processes responsible for determining human behavior. I I just find that quite fascinating because this happened when Neptune was in Scorpio, and then of course Uranus moved into Scorpio, and then it said there that let's go back down that so the cognitive revolution, it sort of became the dominant approach in psychology by the late 1970s. So there seems to be something about the evolutionary process there, about how Neptune and Scorpio and then Uranus and Scorpio, and the evolution of psychology. And like I was saying earlier, Scorpio is such a psychological sign, and it's very much about diving into the unconscious. And we have noticed these major shifts within psychology over the years, and how amazing that these generational planets of Neptune and then Uranus both were in Scorpio at that time. And then the thing about this too is Neptune energy can strongly look at healing. It can strongly look at the collective unconscious as well, right? You think about symbolism. What I'm kind of thinking about with this actually is, you ever see in movies, for example, you have like a disturbed kid, and like he seems really like emo, and they take him to a psychologist, um, and they're showing him like pictures, and it's just this black image on the pages, and you don't know I can't make out what is shown on them, but it's like, what do you see? What do you see? I to be honest, I'm so ignorant to that because I don't know anything about it. But this is just the image that came to my head. And I think of the symbolism. And I think that that's so Neptune and Scorpio. It's like using symbolism as a way to help us sort of articulate this ourselves, or to understand our own psyches in this way. It's like, oh, what image do you see? Oh, well, this is what I saw. This makes sense. Or, well, I suppose it doesn't really make sense whenever it's happening, but maybe the psychologist or the therapist is like, oh, I'm forming my own sort of analysis of what this means based on what you said. And that's even such an astrological thing as well, if you think about it, because astrology is essentially like the art of symbolism, isn't it? Um, all the signs have their own symbols, and even the constellations, there's so much symbolism in that. But the collective unconscious, basically, folks. Neptune and Scorpio ushered in a lot of this, like, progress when it came to psychology. Fascinating. Then the other thing I want to say is, let's explore how there was a rise of horror movies and rock bands in the 1970s, even with Uranus there being in Scorpio at the time. I think of Scorpio energy as being so related to horror, so related to rock and punk and like heavy metal, this type of stuff. But there was a rise in these areas, these art forms in the 1970s, and you just kind of see them with Uranus coming along and looking at those advancements, those technological advancements, and those changes. And then we also see here that there was the rise of serial killers in the 1980s, and Pluto was actually in Scorpio there from, let me just get the dates at the bottom. So Pluto was in Scorpio from 1983 until 1995, 1996, about that time. And this is when we saw the rise of serial killers, which I'm thinking, wow, that's fascinating to think that Pluto was home in Scorpio at that time. But the other thing, not only that, is DNA fingerprinting was established in 1986 when Pluto was in Scorpio. So if you think about DNA fingerprinting, how much easier then it became for police to be able to identify um, who the killers were, or criminals, to identify criminals. So you look at Pluto energy and transforming things to do with crime, for example, or corruption, criminal activity, transforming those areas, and then also the transformations to do with horror. And again, going back a moment with Uranus and Scorpio, here's just some Here's some horror movies that came out in the 1970s whilst Uranus was in Scorpio, which is just, oh, when I saw this, I thought, oh my goodness, this is amazing. But anyway, Halloween, okay, came out in the 1970s. Carrie, classic, and get this, the most terrifying horror movie of them all, at least in my view. Can you guess what it is? Can you guess what I'm going to say? I want to see if you maybe guess, if anybody wants to guess what movie I'm going to say this is. And if nobody wants to say it, it's completely fine. I'll just say it. Maybe I'm just being silly. Goosebumps. No. The Shining, no, but that's a great one. It, no, but that's also a great one. Nightmare on Elm Street, no, also, oh, Nightmare on Elm Street, so good. Exorcist, yes, you got it. Yes, Joe, you got it. Creator, you got it right. The Exorcist came out in the 1970s when Uranus was in Scorpio. I mean, come on. Come on. And if you think about these movies, right, especially The Exorcist, especially Halloween, they completely revolutionized the horror scene. You know, apparently they, or no, it's not apparently, but they did The Exorcist the Believer thing. Oh my goodness, the negative feedback that it's getting, just it's like, you didn't need to redo that. You did not need to add more to that. Like, The Exorcist was was already terrifying enough as it was. I just think it's hard for anybody else to beat it now. But anyway, that's just my own opinion. If you enjoyed The Exorcist Believer, don't come for me. Don't go for me. Creator, you said it's the scariest movie for me too. Oh, it's terrifying. I just remember her face. It's so scary. But yes, and Halloween as well. Halloween completely revolutionized the horror scene as well, the slasher scene. So that's the thing about Uranus in Scorpio. It's really jarring. It's really shocking. It that combination, right? Uranus, Scorpio. Uranus is exalted in Scorpio. It's like, whoa! It's electrifying. It's this electrifying sort of energy. It's the type of energy that can change the world. And the last thing I want to say, then, of course, going off the thing of the rise of rock music, we had rock bands like, should we do another one? Should we do another one? Oh. So we have rock bands like Led Zeppelin, the Ramones, Pink Floyd, and we'll not do another one. Queen. So these were the types of bands that really started to come out around this time, and then you even just see how this music, it's so prominent even today, right? It's this, the thing about stuff that came out during Uranus and Scorpio, that, oh sorry, the art forms, the media, what have you, the technology, what have you, it's still sort of like ingrained in the psyches of people today. there's still there's just something about that music, about that era, about that time period, that seems to be captivating. Now, I could just be speaking more upon my own personal opinions on this. And I get that this is even subjective, what I'm saying, but I find it all really fascinating. But anyway, so that's pretty much our, yeah, our talk today about the Scorpio archetype. I've been especially passionate today. I hope that's okay. And thank you so much for watching. And if you do have a question about your Scorpio energy, about Scorpio overall, it is $10 a question. You can ask me a question if you like. But yeah, thank you so much. Danielle, you said you had a Pink Floyd t-shirt when you were in middle school once and you had no idea who they were, no idea who they were at the time. Said someone said something to you about your shirt about being a fan of them. You kind of know now, but I'm not a rock fan, so interesting. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like a lot of those bands, they have so much merch or shirts today, and you're not the only one then in that way, Danielle. Like so many people wear those shirts and they just even look fashionable in a lot of ways. So a lot of people wear those shirts and they don't even know who they are. Um okay, bye Danielle. Hope you have a good day at work. And Chris, you said Disco Scorpio's Revenge. Is that a song? Sorry. Is that a song? The Demon Lies, Scorpio Lies too. The demon was such a geez, okay. What else? That was a great guess, but you thought Scooby-Doo was funny. Oh my gosh. Oh, terrible. Oh, when did Scooby-Doo come out? I wonder. I need to look that up. So that's us. That's pretty much us. If nobody wants to ask a question, that is all good. But if you did enjoy this presentation today, you can always buy me a coffee by going to the link in the description box. There's also a little code. And again, just to remind you that the calendar is coming out this week. And I really hope that you find the calendar to be helpful. Thank you all so much for watching today. I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation. I hope that you maybe understand this archetype a little bit more, or you learned something new. Let me know. Did you learn something new? And thank you so much for watching. And thank you kindly to my patrons over at Patreon. Thank you for all of your support. I'm going to get going. I hope you all have a lovely Sunday, rest of your Sunday, and have a good week ahead. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later. Thank you so much, creator. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.